and fuzzy inside. 10. Santi Mina to Celta Vigo. Valencia's search for a striker in the 2019 summer window saw them land Uruguayan Maxi Gomez, the 22-year-old who has dovetailed brilliantly with Iago Aspas over the last 2 seasons. A penalty box poacher, Gomez was involved in 40 league goals over the last 2 campaigns, and Valencia had to give up a lot to wrest him away from Celta Vigo, handing the Galician outfit a player on loan, 14 million euros, and 23-year-old forward Santi Mina. Mina came up in Celta's academy, joining the club at 10 and spending almost a decade there, making his debut at 18 and going on to score 12 goals for the club before he turned 20. A Celtico through and through, the club was a family business for Santi, with his father also turning out for them in the 70s and 80s. However, Valencia shelled out 10 million euros for him in 2015, and though Mina was often a substitute at the Mestalla, never recording more than 2,000 league minutes in a single campaign, he had consistently excellent underlying numbers, with 0.6 expected goals and assists per 90 in his last 2 seasons with Los Che, better than Gomez both times. Iago Aspas has been Celta's top scorer in each of the last 4 campaigns, and with the Spaniard now 31, it's vital that Vigo find a way to rejuvenate the squad. And in adding Mina to Sisto and Mendes, as well as fellow homecomer Denis Suarez, coach Fran Escriba has an exciting young core to build his team around, and hopefully improve on 17th place next year. 9. Mario Balotelli to Brescia. Staggeringly, Mario Balotelli is now 29, and it's been 8 years since the Italians' Why Always Me celebration in Man City's 6-1 demolition of United on the way to their first Premier League title. Since then, Super Mario's career has been a tour of Europe's fallen giants, taking in spells at Milan, a stuttering post-Suarez Liverpool, Nice and Marseille, culminating in a move to Brescia in 2019. Though Ballo never played for the Rondinelli, he grew up half an hour from their stadium, and his adoptive father, who died in 2015, was a lifetime fan of the side. The Lombardi outfit returned to Serie A after an 8-year absence, and will hope to reach the heights of the early 2000s when they were a mid-table fixture in the top flight. And in Balotelli they have a proven centre forward. Despite his notorious attitude problems, the Italian has hit 10 or more league goals in 4 of the last 7 years since he left the Etihad, with his time in France particularly profitable, seeing him score every 140 minutes. Around the millennium, Brescia were a purist dream, boasting young stars like Andrea Pirlo and fading legends like Pep Guardiola, and the 2018-19 iteration looks much like the same, with Balotelli the veteran and 19-year-old Sandro Tonali the great hope in midfield. If the two can craft a connection, Balotelli could finally make good on the promise he showed in his own teenage years, and pay tribute to his father in the process. 8. Jody Morris to Chelsea. A non-player now, but perhaps the most important returning hero this summer is Jody Morris, who returned to Chelsea as a coach, having spent 10 years at the club as a youth and senior player. A contemporary of John Terry in the academy, Morris became the Blues' youngest Premier League player ever in 1996, when he debuted for the team and went on to win Chelsea's Young Player of the Season award, the FA Cup, and even briefly captained the side during his 7-year stint. However, the huge investment of the Abramovich era saw him pushed down the pecking order, and the Englishman went on to Leeds and a succession of clubs in England and Scotland, eventually retiring in 2013. But it was then that Morris's career in the game took off. He went back to Chelsea as an assistant with the youth teams, studying for his coaching badges while helping to develop some of the best talents in the country. Before long, he was managing the under-18s, continuing a streak which saw them win 5 successive FA Youth Cups, culminating in a domestic quadruple in 2018. As a result, Frank Lampard was keen to add his old teammate to his backroom staff when he took over at Derby, and Morris brought 2 of his young charges with him, Mason Mount and Fikayo Tomori, who played 85 league games between them as Derby made it to the Championship playoffs. Lampard's elevation to Chelsea boss in 2019 was seen as a big risk on part of the West Londoners, but Morris's support served to quell supporters' fears over Super Frank's inexperience in the dugout. Whatever happens at Stamford Bridge, Morris looks destined to become a top-level manager himself one day, perhaps even at his boyhood club. 7. Mats Hummels to Dortmund. Much to the surprise of nearly everyone at Football Daily, Borussia Dortmund made the decision to re-sign Mats Hummels in June 2019 after 3 trophy-laden years at Bayern Munich. Our confusion stemmed from the fact that now the 30-year-old Hummels is clearly in decline. Trusted with just over 1,750 league minutes by Kovac last term, despite being ineligible for just 5 games through injury, his once great defensive skills are are clearly warning. Not only did his tackle success rate drop by a massive 16% to 62% last term, but his completed long balls per game fell by almost a quarter. Set to turn 31 in December this year, it was unclear how Hummels was supposed to fit into the roster that already contained Akanji, Diallo, Zagadou and the promising Balotelli. Just a few weeks later, it all became clear though, when Favre made the idiotic decision to sell the excellent 23-year-old Amadou Diallo to PSG. The pressure couldn't be greater on his replacement. Signed for €36 million, 8 million more than they sold him for, to immediately hit the ground running. 6. Robin van Persie to Feyenoord. With the possible exception of Fenerbahce, Robin van Persie can reasonably claim to be a legend of every team he has ever played for. The Dutchman is his country's all-time top scorer, reached the Champions League final, became the Player of the Year and won the Golden Boot at Arsenal, led United to the title in Alex Ferguson's final season at Old Trafford, and returned to Feyenoord in 2017. Helping them to win the Dutch Cup 16 years after he lifted the UEFA Cup with them. Though he netted just 1 in 4 for the Rotterdam side the first time around, playing on the left wing, Van Persie was immediately pegged for a bright future, being named Dutch Football Talent of the Year in 2002 over Arjen Robben, who would win the award the following season. However, it was clear early on that RVP was destined to play through the centre, making up in movement and lethal finishing for what he lacked in pace and trickery. Somehow Arsene Wenger got him to North London for under £3 million, and Van Persie developed into one of the best strikers in world football, hitting 144 Premier League goals in 11 years. And though he was 34 by the time he went back to Feyenoord, Van Persie's second spell at the club showed that his killer instinct had never left. The veteran contributed 26 goals in 27 starts between 2017 and 2019, an involvement every 89 minutes, and he's still ranked among the best forwards in the division, averaging over 4 shots a match and creating 2 chances. A long and glittering career was capped with a Cup and Community Shield, and RVP retired in 2019 at 36, the living proof that class is permanent. 5. Quincy Promes to Ajax. On the 24th of June 2019, Quincy Promes signed for Ajax for a €15.7 million fee, completing an 11-year journey which has taken him from Ajax's youth academy to Twente, Go Ahead Eagles, Russia and Spain. It's fair to say that the 37-capped Dutchman's spell at Sevilla last season didn't go to plan. Signed for €20 million after a 5-year spell with Spartak Moscow, Quincy never really got going with first Manchin and then Caparros, only giving him over 1,500 league minutes, 13th in the squad. In fairness to his managers, it's easy to see why he wasn't given more game time, with his shots, key passes and dribbles all at 1.8 per 90 or under, leading to just 5 goal contributions in 33 La Liga games. And whilst his expected goals and assists per 90 might have been a solid 0.5, that was the same as Shane Long managed in the Premier League. Not really good enough considering he was their second most expensive signing of all time. At the time of writing, Ten Hag has only given Promes 93 minutes across the first 3 Eredivisie games. But it's early days and we can see this being one of the more successful homecomings. 4. Sebastian Rudy to Hoffenheim. Never the most glamorous player, it surprised many when Bayern Munich picked up Sebastian Rudy on a free transfer back in 2017. The midfielder had spent the previous 7 years at Hoffenheim, making over 200 appearances for the club as they went from avoiding relegation in a playoff in 2013 to earn 4th spot and Champions League football under Julian Nagelsmann in 2017. That was Rudy's final campaign with the club and he excelled at the base of midfield, winning possession over 6 times a game and somehow creating 2 chances for his teammates per 90 despite his deep position. That saw him earn as many international caps in 2017 as he had his entire career up to that point. And it was perhaps a combination of his emergence on the international stage and his importance to Hoffenheim which saw Bayern move for him, reasoning that it was the best to add domestic talent and weaken a rival even if it didn't strengthen them. Whatever the cause, Rudy played half the minutes the following year at the Allianz, and though his 4 tackles and interceptions per game still looked respectable, he didn't fit into the team's possession style, completing fewer passes than any other Bayern player. In typical Bayern fashion, the German Giants turned a huge profit on him, getting €16 million out of Schalke, where Rudy still couldn't make himself a starter. After 2 years away, he returns to Hoffenheim on loan this season, ready to win back his spot in the fans' heart, though with stellar midfield prospect Sam Asiku also arriving from Salzburg, we have a feeling that the 29-year-old Rudy is set for another disappointment. 3. Vincent Kompany to Anderlecht. After 13 years away, Vincent Kompany rejoined Anderlecht in 2019. Barely more than a boy when he left in 2006, Kompany matured into one of the finest central defenders in the world. But it was not just his defensive skills the Belgian side wanted from him. Instead, Kompany was appointed player manager, with the hope that he could bring stability on the field and innovation off it, and break a 2-year title drought for the purple and whites. Hardly the worst trophyless stretch, but equaling their longest one in 20 years. On departing as a 20-year-old, Kompany netted Anderlecht €10 million from Hamburg, and the German club inexplicably managed to make a loss on him, letting the imposing defender join City in 2008 for €8 million. For all the talk of the citizens' free spending, it was savvy signings like Kompany's which formed the bedrock of their later success, and the skipper's spell at the Etihad saw them rise from mid-table to the pinnacle of the sport, with 2 owners, 4 managers and 12 trophies passing during Kompany's time there. Though peripheral under Pep Guardiola, it was thought that the veteran could bring the Spaniard style to his hometown club from the dugout, and Kompany was greeted as a hero on his return to Belgium, as Anderlecht fans prepared for a new golden age. Sadly, at the time of writing, that prospect seems remote. After failing to win any of his first 4 fixtures, Kompany announced that he would be taking a step away from his managerial duties to focus on playing to the best of his ability, sparking talk of a return to City after only 3 months away. Let's hope one of the most likeable pros in the game can resuscitate his fledgling managerial career. 2. Phil Jagielka to Sheffield United. 4,480. That's the number of days between Jagielka's first stint at Sheffield United and his 1920 return. Subsequently, he's one of only 4 Premier League players representing the same club they were plying their trade at in 06-07. Think you can name the other 3? Stick them in the comments below. Jags, as he's affectionately known, has become synonymous with the Blades, but he was actually born 2 hours away in Sale, Greater Manchester. Stranger still, in his formative years he often played as a right winger, owing to his natural pace. Ironically, he spent time in the Everton youth ranks before joining Sheffield as a 15-year-old, eventually breaking into the first team as a right back. 1 promotion, 3 Player of the Season awards and 287 games later, including a run of 133 consecutive appearances, he rejoined the Toffees for £4 million. Despite the personal accolades and the record fee the club received, the departure was a deeply unhappy one. The Blades had been relegated on goal difference in 06-07, despite the best defence in the bottom 5, with Carlos Tevez' winner against United condemning them to the Championship. 4 years later, they were playing fierce cross-city rivals Sheffield Wednesday in League One. So, despite being in the twilight of his career at 36, and confined to a bit-part role behind defensive stalwarts Jack O'Connell and Chris Basham, Jagielka now has the chance to exercise his relegation demons. The Bramall Lane faithful will be hoping this Blade's still sharp. 1. Marco Reus to Borussia Dortmund. It's hard to imagine Dortmund without Marco Reus, but the club's greatest triumphs came without the wide man in the side. When BVB were ripping up the league under Jurgen Klopp, winning 2 titles on the bounce between 2010 and 2012, Reus was at Borussia Mönchengladbach, playing under Lucien Favre, now his boss at the Westfalenstadion. Gladbach paid €1 million for the forward after he helped the Minnows earn promotion to the German second division, but the attacker had pedigree. A Dortmund native, he joined BVB's academy at 7 and spent a decade with them, and by the time he was at Gladbach, he was an impressively rounded forward, delivering 61 goals and assists in 97 Bundesliga matches. So when Shinji Kagawa left for Man United in 2012, Klopp paid €15 million to bring Reus home, and was rewarded with the best campaign of his career, with 16 goals and 13 assists in the league alone, and a run to the Champions League final. Since then, Reus has 31 goals and assists in 26 UCL games, and has contributed to a strike every 96 minutes in domestic play. 6 times in the Bundesliga Team of the Season and 3 times the Division's Player of the Year, he deserves to pick up a league title before he retires, though at 30, he is running out of chances. Whatever his trophy cabinet ends up looking like, Marco Reus will always be a hometown hero and a modern German great.